Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very interesting session named Industry 4.0, Skilling the Women Garment Workers. We have in our panel today, Humaira Aziz, Director of Women and Girls Empowerment Program, Care Bangladesh. Humaira Appa is very well known to be working in this sector as a development practitioner and an activist for over 2 decades now. Appa provides strategic leadership for women empowerment and mainstreaming gender across the board for this organization and the organizations that she has worked for. Welcome, Humaira Appa, to the panel discussion. And then, of course, we have with us Sarah Krasley. Sarah is again a very well-known face. She's internationally recognized for the digital transformation in manufacturing, and the founder and CEO of SHIMMY Technologies, an Industry 4.0 technology company focused on digital transformation to arrive at future of work that's fair, efficient, and fun. In 2020, Microsoft named Sarah a person of action, recognizing her and her team's innovative use of artificial intelligence capabilities and human-computer interaction models to reach and teach workers who have never used computers or smartphones. And last but not least, I am Tasmiah Rahman, welcoming you all to this wonderful session where hopefully we will be quite candid and open in our discussion on what the future holds. I have been working in the skills development space for over 15 years now. Right now, I head up the skills development program at BRAC. And prior to this, I worked for organizations like Mott McDonald and Swiss Contact in the skills development space for adolescent and youth development. Welcome to you both. And just to give a little bit of context on what we will talk about today, it's pretty clear that, of course, the industry is moving forward, but what we keep on hearing is the lack of skills that comes as a key challenge, especially for women, that they don't have the knowledge nor the necessary skills. It has also been conveyed by relevant stakeholders that lack of education, training, and most of all, motivation remains a key area of solving, because right now it seems like women don't have that motivation. And on the other side, we continue to hear that things are going to change. There needs to be more effective training programs, more into automations that these workers continue to work in this space. But there's also a question on systemic sexism, which can create barriers of professional advancement, where women feel as though they're powerless to effect change. As a result, they remain demotivated. So among all these issues and challenges, I go to Humaira Appa just to sort of get an understanding of how does she evaluate this situation and what can be a way forward, like an active or successful way forward towards this path where we improve the motivation and inspiring women into this next frontier. Appa, over to you.
Thank you. I think, we have been working with female workers in the sector for at least now 2 decades. And what we see is that you have to understand the situation by, first of all, looking at the workforce are comprised of women. So they inherit, being women, they inherit certain kinds of, discrimination and inequality in the workplace. But they also sort of enter the workforce with very low skills. And then you have to also consider them as workers in a factory, which is not really, some of these frontline work. I think, most of in Bangladesh, you don't see a lot of investment on developing skills. So they kind of inherit that burden of being women who are socialized and into thinking that they really don't have a lot of capacities and skills, and then they are also disabled in their thinking of what they can achieve. And when that is combined with having low skills and entering the workforce with low skills, you get exploited more. And that is what you see, that you also don't have a lot of investment in terms of capacity development for female workers. And that is primarily due to two reasons. One is, of course, in market, most of it is really profit oriented. So it is very difficult for employers to see, what you gain in terms of productivity if you train, if you develop, or if you invest resources in capacity development of workers. The other is really when you're working, it is very difficult to, get time to sort of allocate, for a capacity building, because, women's work at home is also very demanding. So I think you see a very critical situation in terms of skills development, where, even the women who need to develop their skills don't see a lot of benefits, or don't really have the capacity to invest time on skills development. And they also don't see a lot of, benefits, longer term benefits, I would say, from skills development opportunities, because they really don't understand how some of these things are linked with their careers, or whether, it will lead to a good career outcome. Because there are not that many opportunities of moving into higher roles or senior roles. And then on the other hand, you see that there's very less opportunities of, training or capacity building with the employers, or even in, in the kind of public space, which is, managed by the government. So it is very difficult, or a precarious situation, I would say, in terms of, how things are for women workers right now.
Right, Abba, thank you so much. Coming to Sarah right now, taking the words from Humaira Abba's mouth. I mean, she does say, and it's the reality, women don't see benefit in skills training. They don't see long-term vision. I mean, in your experience, the work that you do, have you seen this behavioral shift, or this shift in understanding or inspiration in what you do, Sarah?
Yes, absolutely. I think I'm hard pressed to think of a worker that I've met over the years who didn't want to at least try and build some skills once presented with the opportunity to do so. I don't think it's so much as a deficiency in the innate skills that workers have. I think it's more of a lack of opportunity for them to do so. As we move to Industry 4.0, as more is demanded from workers to operate advanced machines, there's a mindset that's really unfortunate that women can't do that more advanced work. And this is a perpetuating thing, right? If that opinion has held true for a long time, then there aren't women operating the advanced machines, doing the technical work in the CAD departments, or the 3D sampling and virtual prototyping departments. And I can even say from my own experience, here in the United States, it was very hard for me to envision being a software CEO when there weren't any female software CEOs around me. And it's very hard to practice something where you don't have a role model in front of you to show you that it's actually possible. So, you know, I think that the workers I've met, they're just sponges. They want to soak up every possible piece of information they can. You know, I really resonate with the things Humaira Appa was saying about, you know, the attitudes around training. I think in the past, I've heard a lot of factory owners talk about trainings that weren't effective. The workers didn't retain the things that they learned. And I think that's up to us as training practitioners to make sure that those sessions are rich and full, and the information those workers are getting is sticky, and they retain it over time.
Thanks, Sarah. That was quite informative. Humaira, I mean, as Sarah was saying, that it's more a question of lack of opportunity rather than lack of motivation or inspiration, really. I mean, if there is a pathway that is successful, if we can show it, then women will come and get these trainings, and this is more like a mindset thing. What do you think about that? I mean, in your opinion, is it about the access issue on training and capacity and the quality of training, or is it more deep-rooted than that, and is it more structural rather than access? Over to you.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's both, I would say. It is structural in the way that, you know, first of all, it's not that women don't want the training. Women do think that, you know, there is kind of, they would love to learn, and there is really that hunger. But there are practicalities that women face, which are actually, you know, if you look at it more kind of structurally, then women don't really many women don't consider themselves as primary, you know, primary bread earners. So they feel that, you know, as long as my work is able to give me some income to complement, you know, my family income, that should be okay, because she also has responsibilities, quite a lot of responsibilities at home. So there is always a dilemma, which I think all working women have actually. I mean, even us also have that, you know, there has to be a balance between the personal life and, you know, the work burden. So I think, you know, there are structural reasons, because she, at home, there is nobody to help her. So she's expected to, you know, play a wife's role. She's expected to, you know, perform all kinds of household responsibilities, you know, manage children, etc., etc. So I think, you know, that way it is structural. But then the other thing is also, you know, particularly considering, you know, women with machines, you know, there is a perception that women are not good with machines. Women are not good with management. Women are not able to manage, you know, manage people, or women are not able, women don't have the physical, we have heard that quite a lot, but women don't have the capacity to take on roles which requires physical labor, etc., etc. So there's quite a lot of myths that has been created around, you know, around women's ability to work or women's potential, which actually comes from social norms that, you know, we are brought up with. And that is also reflected in the perceptions or in the mindsets of the supervisors, managers, owners, etc., etc. So there's an entire ecosystem which still has to believe in the potential of women, and which I think is perhaps the biggest challenge, you know, behind, you know, linking women with the opportunities. Even if opportunities exist, if you want to link women with opportunities, you need to do a lot of other kinds of work, which sometimes doesn't happen, sometimes happens with certain organizations. So I think that's also, those are kind of the key factors. I mean, I would say that sort of constrains women's ability to sort of, you know, realize their full potentials, I would say.
Absolutely. I think that's very well put. I think biggest challenge that you definitely say is, of course, these connections that currently could be missing. So, Sarah, in your experience, putting you in spot right here, trying to say that what kind of skills training do you think really works for women when we consider 4.0? And if you can give some examples of this transition taking place where workers still remain relevant while the industry changes.
It's a great question. I think we've been doing pilots in Bangladesh for the last few years, focusing on helping sewing machine operators become multi-skilled and also giving that baseline digital literacy necessary for them to operate the advanced machines. So we know that transition to Industry 4.0 and greater automation will likely happen over the next decade, if not sooner. But we have a lot of work ahead of us in order to make that workforce able to receive that technology, be fluent in it, and be successful. So, in terms of SHIMMY's technical skills training program, we've made a little platform called Upskill, and basically it's a training that we administer on tablets in factories. We're teaching workers broader than just the work they're doing, maybe doing one kind of joining, but really related to stitch identification, machine preparation, critical sewing processes, cut planning, just really understanding a broader picture than just the small operations that they do. There's some basics related to repair and maintenance of the machines, so that way you have a worker that really understands how to maintain that machine that they're working on, which is going to increase their efficiency and make sure that they don't have problems later on. We feel that when you have broadened technical skills and greater levels of digital literacy, that will allow a workforce to be deployed in more flexible ways. So if a factory wants to produce a greater mix of products, if they want to capture business in value-added products, you have a workforce that is much more flexible and can do that much more quickly. We also feel like the experience of learning on a tablet, so things we all take for granted every day, of swiping and tapping and how hard to press and what gets saved, how do you record a voice? These are basic digital gestures that we're very happy to reinforce in a work setting. Some of these workers have had that experience, maybe on an ATM, maybe on a computer, maybe on a smartphone, but we're happy to bring that in to workflows pertaining to work to begin to build that cadence to help them go where they need to go.
What Sarah just said, or what I've heard, is that this is positive news and it can be done. I mean, in terms of Bangladesh's context and with your experience in working with this space over 2 decades, do you think this is scalable? If it is, then what do you think need to change, or what are the parameters that this happens at scale? Thanks.
I think, of course, this can be taken in scale. I think the parameters that need to be considered, of course, one is really context, context of Bangladesh, context of women, and where they come from. In order for in order to motivate the workers, or in order to sort of also help workers to connect why this learning is important and how does it help them, or how does it help them to achieve their career goals. And in order to do that, you also would have to make them understand what's the importance of having career goals, or how should they set their career goals and what benefits that might bring to them. So there's a whole lot of encouragement, motivational piece that is needed, for scaling up some of these work. And also, how do you build confidence of women workers? And this is what I want to stress, is that, even if you have a very good training opportunity, or even if you have a very good training program, you have to build the confidence of the workers, which only comes from, getting a control of your professional life, but also personal life. Then the question is, then what could build that confidence, so that, the uptake can be really useful, and, it's really taken more spontaneously, and you get the return of that benefit. And for that, I think, the soft skills component is very important, where they're able to sort of have more reflections from their personal lives and learn skills that would help them both professionally and in their personal lives. And the more you sort of bring some of these combinations together, I think the uptake and the retention of the learning, be it on the equipment side, or be it on the kind of more softer skill side, will be much more sustainable, and will give women the opportunity to sort of or the confidence to sort of use their learning through training. So I would say that yes, it is very scalable. But you have to do a lot of background and linkage kind of work to really get the return of the investment of time and effort, both on the sides of the employers, organizations like us who are providing training, but also the investment and effort that the workers make, because it is very difficult to spend time after long hours of work for learning a new skill. And it is also very difficult to learn a new skill when you're an adult. So, so some of these have to be packaged so that, there's more interest and more confidence and more motivation, I would say.
I think that's so true. Tasmiah Appa, may I just build on something that Humaira Appa said? We are collaborating together right now in a joint collaboration to train workers both with the technical skills that they need to be successful, and also the mindset shift and soft skills. And SHIMMY and CARE just had a joint training summit just a little while ago, where the trainers from our team interfaced with the trainers from CARE, and we really thought about how do we support these female workers, not only giving them the technical acumen they need, but helping to prepare them move into departments where they might be the only woman in that department. That requires a set of leadership skills, negotiation, understanding what's happening. And I'll say it's just been a wonderful experience for us to learn from the CARE trainers and to share information across. If the CARE team sees that there are female workers who are feeling very disengaged, or if the SHIMMY team sees that that might be happening in our trainings, we can work together to make sure that we find out if there's a problem and can intervene and help that woman maybe with a little extra encouragement or support so she's successful. This is a quite remarkable thing that's happening, to have an Industry 4.0 technical training paired with soft skill and mindset. And we just really appreciate H&M's Foundation's leadership to bring us together to get to do this work and learn how to make this happen.
Great. I'm getting really motivated here. There's a few questions, and I'll ask them, and either of you can take it. So Mr. Hilaluddin from Palmol Group has asked, I was wondering, along with the willingness of factories women, how the buyers can also be encouraged, can encourage their suppliers to implement such worker development program at the factories so that it can be more effective. So his question is whether or how the buyers can also encourage the suppliers. Humaira, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you see, I can't speak for all the kind of suppliers, for all the buyers. But what we see definitely is that there's a lot of encouragement from quite a lot of buyers who are now encouraging the suppliers to sort of focus on workers' development programs, capacity investments. But where we see that there needs to be perhaps more work is that how buyers can support in instilling sustainable mechanisms within the supplier system, so that, you know, there is capacity to continue some of these work even beyond the kind of buyer-supplier relationship. So there's a need to think of how do we institutionalize that within the supply chain. I think many you know, buyers support some of these programs, but one could sort of also argue that whether the scale is enough, and I think it is not also always possible for the buyer to sort of, you know, do these kinds of large scale programs. And perhaps the other area that probably needs more attention is, you know, what would then happen, you know, with the buyer-supplier relationship, or how does that affect the business? How can these some of these be linked with business goals as well? So I think, you know, overall, I have seen, at least in Bangladesh, I've seen that there's lots of buyers who are now supporting and encouraging their suppliers. And now I think I'm not the best person to speak on the supplier side as to what kind of benefits they're seeing, but I feel that there are lots of suppliers as well in Bangladesh who have done very excellent work in terms of taking some of these initiatives on their own. So you see a combination of good practices on both sides, and perhaps that's why the RMG sector has improved on a lot of aspects over the last decade, which the other sectors were not able to sort of advance so much. So that's also there, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's another question. What form of digital literacy practices productivity gains? Are there any good examples of self-teaching technology for women workers? This is for Sarah.
Sure. So is my internet coming through okay? There was a little bit of problem on the line. Humaira Appa, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it was breaking up a bit, but I think it's okay now.
Okay, so I think when we think about digital literacy, we need to think about it applied to a particular occupation or role. So someone that works at the Daily Star, for example, is going to need to know how to use Word, how to do track changes, how to work with a graphic design software in order to post stories and publish them in a newspaper. In our industry, the digital literacies take the form more of, you know, the beginnings of digital tools coming into production environments. So SHIMMY has embarked on a project called the Apparel Automation Pulse. We've been doing that over the last 8 months in partnership with Better Work Bangladesh. And the ILO's research team, where we've been in granular detail, capturing about 180 case interviews from factories, understanding what are the machines in place in the production environment, what advanced machines are factories planning to purchase in Bangladesh, and what does that mean in terms of the skills gaps that are resulting from that need to move into more advanced equipment. So what we do at SHIMMY is we take that huge data set of all of those machines. We begin to look at digital controllers and workflows, understanding what buttons workers need to understand, what are the elements within that graphic interface that powers the machine that a worker is going to need to understand. And we build that into our trainings in order to provide those types of digital literacies to workers. And along the way, just as I imagine QuizRR does and other trainings that are administered on tablets, those basic digital gestures that the the workers will learn one way or another through some means. But again, bringing that and bridling it into a work-related training is important.
Very fascinating. I'm so tempted to come and see.
I would love that. Please do. I've been myself to the OSSCs and to the training that center that BRAC has near the airport, and was just blown away by the way you're helping people as well. So it would be wonderful the next time I'm in Dhaka or with my team that's based there now. It would be great to do information sharing with you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Questions keep on coming, which is great. It seems like people are finding this very interesting. What helps innovators, factories alike, try out new methods and technologies? Are there ways we can prototype new skills development at the factory during productive time? It's often the case that women and workers in general don't want to step away from their stations or separate training programs that take time away for work. I think this is spot on as to what Humaira was saying, that it's sometimes it's not the interest, it's more like time. Also whether they're at all able. Humaira, I mean, in terms of your experience, do you think factories or innovators can come together in a common area where, or a common space where there is method and new technologies, and there'll be enough opportunity for women to learn in this space? Over to you.
Yes, I mean, of course. I mean, I think, it is very important that this true group, innovators and factories, work together. I think in terms of the questions of methods, one must consider that it's not just between innovators and factories, it's between innovators, factories, factory management, and factory workers. So from that context, I think methods are really important because I think, you're trying to sort of help women who are really burdened with their work to learn new skills. And that's not always very easy. When you have A, to think about your home, and B, to think about your production targets. So methods have to be very creative, very innovative, and very effective. And what we have seen is in many kind of methods that we applied, I think what we have seen is that there's a lot of hunger for new information, particularly with women, because women actually, due to, our social construct, don't really have a lot of access to information. So there's actually a lot of hunger. Now, how do you help some of these women with methods that provide you easy access or kind of easy learning is something that the innovators must, consider. So I think, they can work together as long as you sort of understand the pressure points for each of these groups, and their kind of realities, and then figure out a best method and that have and technology that would help you to design, new skills development programs, I guess.
True, very true. Shimmy, the next question is to Sarah, because it says, speaking of return on investment, how do you value such a product? We have ability, you can something. That's to Sarah.
Tasmiah, Appa, your internet is going in and out, but I'm just going to repeat the question in the hopes that it will help. So there's a question in the chat asking about return on investment. So how do you value the product that SHIMMY has brought to market? It's questioning, you know, the scalability of the product, and asking about tangible value. So the factories that are interested in piloting SHIMMY and scaling those pilots are really interested in it related to production efficiency. So those factories understand that there, you know, there's some room for improvement in terms of efficiency of line workers, and see the opportunity for technical training to aid in that. So in that efficiency allows some room in the budget to upskill, and those go just absolutely hand in hand. I think there is empirical evidence for a clear ROI. If I look at the GEAR program, which has been alive and well, doing technical trainings and soft skill trainings, that program has generated about a 5% improvement in efficiency, which has absolutely been a meaningful ROI for the factories that participated. So we're hoping to follow along that lines. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can also add to that question. I mean, it's also, even with soft skills, you are able to show tangible benefits. You just have to figure out a way to show it, or a method to show it, but it is possible.
And I think there was another question about scalability as well. And I just want to say that a technology-driven approach is actually quite scalable. We've been investing in an artificial intelligence engine for some time that allows for very quick translation and generation of lessons. So we've been very thoughtful in the ways that we're using technology to make this product extensible and scalable. So I just wanted to add that point, since I don't think I covered that last piece of the question.
Absolutely. Can you hear me now? I think, as I mentioned earlier,
we can hear you beautifully. The internet is cooperating with us again.
Right. Thank you. Jennifer Jabbar from our very own BRAC has asked, is it digital technology or technical machine operation that the industry is requiring now? Sarah, do you want to take that?
Sure. So, I mean, what the Pulse has uncovered is that the skills necessary are really right in the near term for operation of semi-automated equipment. So I think, Jennifer, within your question, those are the skills that we need to build first. I think our philosophy in upskilling is that we're never going to be finished, all of us, even those of us in office positions or elsewhere. The future of work is going to necessitate us building our skills over time. What we're interested in is generating that near-term ROI for factory owners who want to do this. And the way to do that, we feel, is to watch what types of skills are in demand over the next 6 to 18 months and make sure that we're skilling workers in place of that. So I believe that in the near term, it's those kinds of skills. Over time, I imagine more skills related to shop floor analytics, QA, digital design, virtual prototyping. Those are all areas that will require our attention in building skills and growing to make sure that the RMG sector remains competitive.
Right. I think there's another follow-up question. What are the types of complex or complementary skills, particularly in operational work, that the industry is seeking? Any thoughts on that?
I think I answered it, but Jennifer, I'm happy to have a side conversation and go deeper into it. Perhaps we can do that in the roundtable next.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think lots of questions. This is good. I'm so happy. Energy. I mean, this is wonderful. How can different stakeholders play active roles to encourage the upskilling of women workers before or during entry to the industry? Humaira, perhaps you can add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my recommendation would be to sort of to address the aspect of before is really getting access to girls on vocational training, and you need to do something radical to do that so that they can get a doorstep access very close to their neighborhood. And there's also a lot of gender stereotype thinking around the TVET structure. So I think, creating an opening in the TVET structure for girls, to learn skills that are not really traditional skills that, girls are preferred for. So, I mean, dealing with machines, et cetera, is not considered for girls, even, when they're in their childhood. And during, I think, most important thing is, I think perhaps using a very stronger foundation kind of program, but also having perhaps kind of a cascading training programs or institutionalizing a cascading training program for women. And I think the training only option is also not a good option. I think what needs to happen is like you need to bring in other thoughts where, where you could sort of gain experience of handling maybe a machine for maybe 7 days or 15 days. So on-job kind of opportunities, that are supporting the technical trainings or training programs would be also very critical, during the career of a woman in the factory.
Thanks. I think we're almost out of time. The question of COVID or the issue of COVID-19 has also definitely impacted us and affected this industry like any other, as it has changed our lives. So just very quickly, first Sarah and then Humaira, how do you see this overall 4.0 dynamics changing for women, in this COVID critical context as well? I mean, has it become harder, or we're actually moving towards a more technological solution now that we don't have a choice? So very quickly, last few words.
Sarah, you want to go ahead first?
Sarah.
Yeah, I'll just say a few words briefly. I mean, I think, Humaira Appa, we're going to learn a lot this summer, aren't we? We've been operating along with the Asia Foundation, H&M Foundation, to, BBC Media, like to try and begin these trainings in this moment of just tremendous uncertainty. And as soon as we're able, I think this collective approach of joining these trainings and also the perception change work that BBC Media is doing is going to teach us a lot about what those strategic points are. And we'll be very excited to share those learnings with the broader community to raise everyone's efforts.
I think the impact of COVID-19, yes, it has made, skills development very challenging. On one hand, Tasmiah's had to close down, or their kind of business got reduced, etc., etc. So there is a challenge in that sector to overcome the impact of COVID-19, which may not be so easy to overcome. But on the kind of positive side, it has brought actors like SHIMMY, H&M all together, trying to find out the appropriate kind of technological platforms or solutions, so that even in this situation you can prepare women to not just for their careers, but also to help them overcome the impact on their livelihood due to COVID-19. So there are both kind of challenges, but there has been also a lot of good efforts on many actors' side to help women workers.
Absolutely. I think with that note, we are kind of out of time. We have about a minute. So I think this was a brilliant discussion. We jumped into the questions, and what came out as answers were very helpful, I think, and it generated a lot of conversations on how the future can hold in terms of all participants coming together as different stakeholders, not only looking at what technology can provide and systematically making that change, but also sort of making all stakeholders responsible. I thank you all for being here. This is Tasmiah Rahman, and was an absolute pleasure talking to Humaira, Aziz, and Sarah Krasley. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.